All right, welcome back to the Lucky to Be Here channel. This is going to be a really good episode. I recently just came back from about a week or so vacation down to Rio, Brazil for the New Year celebration. In my opinion, I think the Rio, Brazil New Year celebration is probably the best New Year celebration probably in the world. I don't know what several hundred thousand people, probably a million people that were actually on Copacabana, Ipanema Beach, and all throughout Rio, Brazil, for the New Year's festival, and it was a blast. The last time I was in Rio was actually back. I went to the New Year's Carnival, the New Year's Festival back in 2013 for New Year's, and it was a pretty big event. To where they shut down like the beach road and maybe a couple of streets behind that. But this trip, it just completely blew me away. It was even 10 times bigger than it was back in the day. I think they probably shut down all of Copacabana. It was so packed that it took me till 5 o'clock in the morning after the New Year celebration to actually get out of Copacabana because it was just, there was just so many people having a good time, lots of concerts going on that we're gonna get into. But yeah, in this episode, we're gonna cover all things Brazil. Everything from your airline travel, immigration, as far as visas are concerned, hotels, sightseeing, restaurants to go to, just different parts of town to be in. So this is going to be a one-stop kind of all-inclusive Rio, Brazil kind of walkthrough. And it's going to be a really good episode here. I got a lot of good videos, some good photos. We're just going to kind of walk through my kind of a week excursion for the Brazilian for New Year's in Rio, Brazil. And the reason why I wanted this to be a part of the Lucky to Be Here channel is that obviously everybody had their New Year's celebrations. Some people kind of stayed locally. I live here in St. Pete, Florida, and a lot of people stayed local and went out to either restaurants and pubs or went had New Year's on the water. And I would say that, hey, life is precious, life is short. We're all like we always say, we're all lucky to be here. Maybe next year you'll, after watching this episode, maybe you'll decide to go to Rio, Brazil, or maybe Medellin, Colombia, or maybe somewhere else in the world just to have that different experience of just a different type of New Year's and how everybody else celebrates. So yeah, we'll go ahead and dive into it. I got a couple of notes here. Like I said, a couple of screens we'll kind of walk through just to kind of really answer all your questions in regards to what's it like going down to Rio, Brazil? Is it safe? What's the currency? How do the ATMs work? Different things like that. So we're going to cover all that in this episode. It's probably going to go about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'll probably, make a few clips, just kind of shorten things up. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, like I kind of discussed, today I'd want to take you on a journey of purposeful travel that includes culture immersion and personal development. Our destination for today is Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Like I said, one of my favorite cities. I think in a previous episode, I talked about, my goal in life is to live the trifecta, right? I'd like to live, 4 months in the States, 4 months in Medellin, and then 4 months in Rio, Brazil. In my opinion, Rio, Brazil is like the ultimate beach culture. There's no better beach city in my opinion in the world. And I'm going to show you some videos and things like that. We're going to walk through a few things. So, let's go ahead and, in fact, I'll go ahead and share screen here just a sec, and then we'll go and dive into what's it like, um, in Brazil during the day? What was the New Year's celebration like? We're going to walk in all that. It was wild. It was almost too much, right? Too many people out there. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And you can kind of see, I've just got like the wiki page up on Rio, Brazil. You can kind of see the coastline. This is like, potentially their Copacabana or Ipanema. Just kind of going through some of these. This probably looks like almost looks like this is the statue of the Christ the Redeemer. You got Sugarloaf Mountain out there. You got different areas, Botafogo, Ipanema, or Rio, Barra da Juca, different things like that. That's the Sugarloaf Mountain ride. I think that's, yeah, the Copacabana coast, things like that. So let me just show you a quick video real quick, and just to kind of start things off. Like, this is what it's like, in Rio, Brazil, in regards to, if you're just like everyday life, like driving down Copacabana. This is like a good video right here. We'll go ahead and show on the screen here. And now, we're going to kind of, now we're going to take a look at, now this is what Rio, Brazil look like. Go ahead and pause this for a sec so I can kind of get some of the sound off the screen. But this is what Rio, Brazil looked like for New Year's. I'm literally, stuck in a crowd of several hundred thousand people. And what they do for carnivals, what they do is, you've got like Copacabana Beach right here, you got Ipanema right here, and what they do is they put like maybe 20 cruise ships, like maybe 10 cruise ships on Copacabana Beach and another 10 on Ipanema, and they just light up the entire sky for about an hour. I mean, it's probably one of the most impressive fireworks shows. I think you could probably go to YouTube. I think one of my buddies, Stan, said that there's like a drone footage of it. So I definitely highly recommend, people go check it out. So, here we go. This was the fireworks show. Literally, I'm sitting there and I've got my camera, held up in the sky, kind of trying to catch footage. And it's just like, a million people just kind of hanging around. You've got like, one of the stages right there. It's like this is looking out into the beach area where the ships are along the coastline. And then I'm going to pan to the right here shortly, and you're going to see like, the stage where I think it was Anita. I think that one of the top Brazilian musicians, I think she performed that night for New Year's. And literally I had a private booth for two right there on Copacabana Beach at one of like little beach bars, like right on the like, I mean, just look at all the hundreds of thousands of people recording with their phones, things like that. I mean, it was just an amazing New Year's celebration. Probably the best I've ever been to, even better than when I went back in 2013, over 10 years ago. This was even better than that. I mean, you can just take a look at the fireworks, just look at the sky, just getting lit up on all sides. And this is just one section of Copacabana Beach. This isn't, this is one section. Copacabana's got to be what, 3, 4 miles long, just the Copacabana stretch. And this was going on along the entire stretch of Copacabana. Then you get towards Ipanema. It was going on the entire stretch of Ipanema Beach. And then all throughout the city, there was just a humongous fireworks show. You can just see, like I said, just kind of panning around. I mean, just look at the sky just completely lit up, and then later on that stage is when, I think it was Anita performed maybe for about an hour or so. And then another performer came after that. They were playing music all night. I had like a private table, it was that kind of all inclusive. It was about $250 per person right in front of Copacabana Palace, like the most exclusive location in the entire city. You're talking about $250 per person for unlimited drinks, unlimited food, prime real estate, watching an Anita concert right there in Copacabana Beach. I mean, I can imagine what that would cost probably in the States. You're probably talking thousands of dollars, right? So for $500, I had, my dinner, my drinks, my location, my table, private table, roped off from, all the people. So that way I had a comfortable place to sit and, amongst other people that were celebrating for New Year's. So definitely just an amazing New Year's celebration. All right, I'll go ahead and stop share right here. All right. Yeah, I'm going back over to my notes here. So, in this episode, I'll be sharing my experiences from my recent trip to Rio, Brazil for New Year's celebration. We're going to go beyond the sightseeing. We're going to focus on maximizing your experience, without breaking the bank. We're going to talk about, the range. We're going to go through all the costs, right? How much does an Airbnb cost? How much does your flight cost? How much you expect to spend on food and for some of the sightseeing, going to the Christ the Redeemer, going to Sugarloaf, how much are those tickets? What would be a reasonable budget for going to Rio, Brazil? And it's always plus or minus, just depends on how you like to, how you like your Airbnb or hotel to be. What kind of, how are you going to dine every day? And I'm going to make some recommendations on that, how much sightseeing you want to do. And we'll kind of jump into all that. So like I said, we're going to go everything from airline travel to lodging to the visa requirements, pretty much everything Rio, Brazil. All right. All right, and let's kick things off with what makes Rio so special. Nestled along the Atlantic coast, this city is known for its breathtaking landscapes, stunning beaches, and rich cultural heritage. It's obviously everybody knows that Rio is famous for its Carnival Festival, which is like the Samba Parade. The Samba Parade in Rio, it's like almost like the Battle of the Bands, but people come from all cities, all states in Brazil, and they almost kind of like compete to basically be crowned the winner of the Samba Parade. So literally, you're going to be in like this humongous, like almost like soccer stadium, and there's going to be a strip road where people like kind of drive down and have their floats. And like different groups, and maybe they're from Copacabana has a group, maybe Ipanema, maybe Barra de Juca, maybe another, Sao Paulo has a group, and they all come down to Rio and they compete for the champion of the samba parade. And at the end of the samba parade, they actually pick a winner, and that person's crowned the winner of the samba parade. And just an amazing experience. In my opinion, I think the best two times to go to Rio, Brazil are during the Carnival Festival and during the New Year's. You're going to get people traveling from the United States, from Europe, from Canada, from Asia. People are coming down. I saw lots of Chinese and Japanese tourists down there in Rio, Brazil, and from all over Latin America. People are down there, and it's just an amazing experience. I would highly recommend New Year's Eve celebration. I think it's called REVEILLON or Réveillon. I'll pull that up here shortly. And then I would recommend the Carnival Samba Parade, which I think this year is going to be like March 30th time frame. So I would definitely recommend, going down there for about a week, because, obviously it's quite, a pretty good flight. It's about 8 hours travel from Miami. So, you don't want to, my humble opinion, you don't want to go down for 2-3 days, take an 8 hour flight to go down and then, stay for 2-3 days, just getting over jet lag and then having to fly 8 hours back. You want to give yourself about a good 7 to 14 days. That was what I would recommend. A minimum, I'd say 5 to 7 days, but I would really, you really want to do 14 days. That way you're not trying to rush everything. You can do one tourist activity per day, go to one nice restaurant per day, and then get to just enjoy and relax on vacation. Hang out at the beach, drink a couple of caipirinhas, and just kind of really take it in, as opposed to rushing the entire vacation. We'll get into that a little bit. All right. And I'm going to just show you just a quick map. I'm going to do another share screen here, and I'm going to show you like a map of Rio here, one of my screens here. So if you look here, you can just kind of see, obviously we're up here in the United States, right? And you can see that Rio, Brazil is way down south below the equator. So it's actually summertime right now in Rio, Brazil. So Rio de Janeiro is right here on the Atlantic coast, of Brazil. So literally, I flew from Tampa, Florida, and I flew all the way down to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and you can see how it's kind of more to the east. So actually Rio is actually 2 hours ahead of East Coast time. So currently right now it's like what, 2:30 p.m. in Rio, Brazil. In just so you can have that for account. And you can see, you think, Colombia is only a 3 hour flight, right? That's still Latin America. And obviously they speak Spanish in Colombia, but Colombia, Medellin's about a 3 hour flight from Orlando or from Miami. But Rio, Brazil, you're talking about an 8 hour flight, right? It's just as far as going to Europe. You can see how close Rio is to Africa. So you can see that's almost like a shorter trip going from, Africa to Brazil than it is from just about going from the States. So you can see, so I flew down from Tampa through Miami. We're going to go over flights as well. And down to Rio is about 8 hours out of Miami. So 1 hour from Tampa to Miami, and then 8 hours down to Rio, Brazil, here in the Eastern Coast. So, typically, the flights are going to be at night, from Florida in general. We're going to get into the travel and things like that here shortly. But, it's about an 8 hour flight. Typically, you'll leave at like 9 or 10 at night, arrive at like 8 or 9 in the morning, into Rio de Janeiro. GIG is the airport code, Rio Airport. Right. So we'll stop right. All right. So the next thing, we'll go ahead and stop my share screen for a quick sec. But the next thing, the language in Rio, Brazil is Portuguese. So, it's kind of funny, right? Because all for the most part, everywhere in Latin America is Spanish, right? You go to Colombia, you go to Dominican Republic, you go to Mexico, it's Spanish pretty much everywhere. But in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. So just kind of know that, when you get ready to go to Brazil, in my humble opinion, it's always a good idea to brush up on the local language before you go. Maybe, download, a Rosetta Stone and do maybe a couple of modules on there just to say, hello, goodbye, you want to order a beer. How do you ask for, a conta, the bill, things like that in Portuguese. Like I said, Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, you can even do YouTube actually has like, for example, for Spanish, right? It's like Spanish while you sleep. So you can put it on like an 8 hour video on YouTube, and it literally has like, rain in the background. It actually helps you sleep at night, and it plays different Spanish phrases, at night while you're sleeping. If you can do Spanish while you sleep. They also have Portuguese while you sleep as well. So literally for 8 hours while you're sleeping, you can like kind of have that Portuguese kind of sunk into your subconscious. And it definitely helps with, pronunciation, different things like that. So there's definitely different ways, free ways you can go online and, learn, Portuguese. I'd highly recommend, obviously, you want to use Google Translate as a lifesaver. Pretty much, you go anywhere in the world, use Google Translate, and it's of course, you'd like to, speak the native language, right? You want to go to Brazil, you want to be able to speak some Portuguese, but don't let that stop you. People say, oh, I hear a lot of times people that travel go, oh, don't go to the country and you don't know the language, different things like that. I totally disagree. I think there's nothing wrong. If you speak no Spanish, no Portuguese, just go anyways, wing it, use your Google Translate. That'll help you out. I would rather go and use Google Translate, and at least I got to experience it and learn while I was there, as opposed to, obviously you want to try to speak it, but as opposed to not going and when I'm going to wait 6 months to a year to try to learn the language. Obviously, that's the ideal situation, but go anyways, immerse yourselves, give it a shot. But what I would recommend people doing is obviously you want to use, download Google Translate, and then you can download the offline for free Portuguese package on your phone. So that way, if you don't have connection to the internet, you still have the Portuguese package on your inside of Google Translate. So you have offline translation. So that'll kind of help you out. There's also other, the Time Kettle X1 language translator. It's like kind of like a little bit of a high end. You can get like the earbuds, it's like a little interpreter hub to where like, hey, I can put an earbud in my ear. There'll be an interpreter hub here. You put an earbud in your ear. I can speak into the interpreter English and it'll come out Portuguese. And if you have someone that's there, you can actually both, use just the earbuds themselves as a cheaper version. I think that's like $300, or you can use the full on interpreter hub, which is like $750, and that thing is awesome. I've actually got one myself. I can speak English into it, and then it comes out Portuguese on the other end. They'll speak in Portuguese, and it'll come out English, and you can have a one-on-one conversation with a native speaker. I mean, it's next level, and I can only imagine over the next 5 years what AI is going to do with those language apps. Right now, there is a little bit of a delay, and you got to kind of speak clearly and through it, and you don't want a bunch of background noise. But can you imagine in 5 years if they've got that kind of, they've got those language apps right now? And then, the X1 interpreter hub, you can actually connect it to your computer, and you can have Zoom calls with other, in another language. So for example, I'm on Zoom, I'm an American, I'm having a Zoom call with a Brazilian person who's speaking Portuguese on the other end, on their Zoom. I can plug in my interpreter on my end into your web app. I can speak English. It'll come out on Zoom on the other end in Portuguese, and if they've got an interpreter hub on their end, it'll come back the other way. And I think you can do that with multiple languages from multiple different locations. You can kind of choose. So you can connect like up to like 20 or 30 interpreter hubs at one time. You can have like an international conversation. I think that's going to be the future of business, right? I'm doing business with someone in Brazil, in Colombia, in China. I can speak in English. It comes out, Chinese on the other end, things like that. So I think the next level of language, to remove those language barriers is going to be these interpreter hubs. And I mean, think about in the past, right? Maybe 10, 20 years ago, there was no Google, 20 years ago, there was no Google Translate back in the 80s and 90s. And you just had to go out there and try to learn the language. And you were just kind of like, there was no internet to tell you what restaurants you can go to, or, Uber for somebody to come pick. I mean, it's revolutionized the way we travel. It's so much easier to travel because you can look up what you want to do before you get there. You can have a language app to help you translate the language when you get down there. So it's just an amazing opportunity to travel right now. All right. Let's see. So, all right, we kind of covered that. So let's talk about airline travel. All right. Take my notes here. So airline travel. So let's talk about how you get there. All right. So, for flying to Rio, many airlines offer direct flights from major U.S. cities like Miami, Houston, I believe Dallas does. I think Charlotte, maybe, yeah, believe Dallas does, Atlanta, New York, things like that. So, for example, if you're going through Miami, you're going to be flying on American Airlines. If you're going through, Houston, you're going to be flying on United or Copa Airlines to go down to Brazil. I think if you're going through like Atlanta, you're going to be flying on Delta. So, matter of fact, I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to look at a couple of flights here. So share screen again. Right. So I kind of went ahead and pre-populated, just kind of like, hey, I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I'm going to be flying down to Rio, Brazil. I'm going to leave this Thursday, February 20th, and excuse me, next month, February 20th, and then come back on February 27th. So you can kind of see, what the pricing is looking like, right? For the, two stop, that's a longer, travel time. That's going to be about $613. Let's just say right here on American Airlines, right? I can fly at 5:30 p.m. or 8:47 p.m. That's actually the flight I took. One stop in Miami for an hour and a half, and then get to Brazil, the next morning at 9:30 in the morning. So, for example, if you kind of explode this, you can see, hey, from Tampa, I go to Tampa, Miami, I'm there for an hour. and then just pretty much go to your gate. And then you're going to go to, Rio Galileo International Airport. GIG is the code. And then you can also see, hey, does this flight offer Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is free, in-seat power outlets, streaming media, things like that. So, think about it, right? You're going to be on a flight for pretty much 8 hours from Miami to Rio, Brazil. It's important to know whether you're going to have Wi-Fi or not. It makes your flight that much enjoyable. I think if you fly like, I think you can fly like Avianca, right? You can go from like, I think Tampa just opened up a nonstop flight from um, Tampa to Bogota. I think I heard that. I haven't checked that out. But let's just say you're flying through like Bogota in Colombia. Does Avianca? I think they don't have Wi-Fi on the flight. So imagine, you can. I personally don't mind paying, $30, so that way I have Wi-Fi. You can watch YouTube videos, you can email and chat with people and different things like that. Just something to keep yourself entertained for the next 8 hours, things like that. So I think that's very, very valuable. So there's definitely, definitely a couple options, right? You can fly American Airlines. I'm in Tampa, so the main hub I'm going to go through is going to be Miami. If you found like a more inexpensive flight, sometimes you can go through Dallas, I believe, for American. And then, typically if you've got like status with American, there's like an international, and you have a little bit more of a layover in Miami. There's a lounge you can go to for free drinks, free food. Miami pretty much has everything, right? They've got restaurants, they've got coffee shops, they got pretty much everything in the Miami airport. Um, or, for example, let's say if I were flying down there, I wanted to go through Copa Airlines, which is a partner of United. So basically I would go from Tampa to Panama City, and then Panama City down to Rio, Brazil. So Copa is basically United, and I could fly down, fly through Panama City. That's the shortest route going, from Tampa down to Panama City would be about a 3 hour flight. And then from Panama City down to Rio is probably like another 6 hours or so. And let's just say, if I was a Delta person, I had status with Delta. I could fly to Atlanta. So I can go Tampa to Atlanta, have a small layover in Atlanta, and then I can fly down to Rio, Brazil from Atlanta as well. So you're kind of going back up north, but if you've got status, maybe you can get a better, better seats, with more leg space. Maybe you can get on the upgrade list for business class for some of your flights, things like that. Maybe there's a lounge if you've got like a little bit of layover. So I definitely highly recommend if you got status on one of the airlines, stick with your carrier. All right. And that's pretty much it for flights. So I think the flights pretty much range from about anywhere from, just depending on when you go. Of course, if you go during Carnival and New Year's, there's going to be more traffic. So the flight's going to be more expensive. So you're probably going to spend anywhere from $500 to about $1,200 to $1,500, depending on when you go. If you go during New Year's, like I went, you're going to spend about $1,500 round trip. If you go during off season, you probably spend about, I've seen flights as low as like $400 or $500 round trip to Rio. So, because remember, you got everybody going in and coming back at the same exact time, so they're just going to increase the prices for the flights. Different things like that. You can get creative with the routes. You can book a one-way on American, and then if you find an extremely inexpensive return on Copa Airways, you can come back on Copa. Fly out on Delta, come back on American, things like that. There's different ways you can kind of arrange your flights. All right, all right. So let's also go ahead and talk about, and obviously, once you fly in. Let's talk about, before we talk about Rio Airport, let's talk about immigration, your visa. Do you need a visa to travel to Rio, Brazil? The answer right now today is you do not need a visa to travel to Rio, Brazil. What they're doing is, I think right now, and they've done this for the last like 3 or 4 years in a row, and they've never implemented it. But right now, in order to go to Rio, Brazil, and I'll go ahead and pull up this. What I like to do is anytime you're traveling anywhere international, especially for the first time, I like to go to the travel.state.gov website and actually look at the actual travel requirements for Rio, Brazil. It gives you any kind of like safety alerts. It tells you what the requirements are to travel, whether you need any vaccines or, how much money, if you're traveling into Rio, how much currency can you have before you need to declare it? What do you, as far as, do you need a visa before you get there? Need to have any kind of like migration form you need to enter online before you go, and when you exit like Colombia, the checkmate, things like that. So right now, basically, in order to go to Rio, you just need a valid passport. Must be valid on the day of entry. You need one page required for your entry stamp, so one blank page in your passport. And your passport, I think it needs to be, you need to have about 6 months, I believe, of validity on your passport. Don't quote me on that one, but I believe it's 6 months. Beginning on April 10th, and it's funny, when I asked a immigration officer when I was leaving Brazil if they were still going to uphold it, they're saying that you're going to have a visa when you come to Brazil. So back in the day when I went to Brazil in 2013 and 2012, actually I went for Carnival in 2012. In order to get a visa for Brazil, you actually had to apply ahead of time. I think I used Abriggs to get my Brazilian visa, but basically I had to get like 2 passport photos. You have to basically book your flight ahead of time, your hotel ahead of time, you need to show a copy of your bank statement to show that you've got like $1,000 or $2,000 in your bank account. You need to submit all that to basically the Brazilian embassy. They'll basically take one page out of your passport, put a photo in there, a whole, a visa, a paper, kind of like they take one page up and put like a paper visa inside your passport, and then they'll send you your passport back, and then that visa is good for like 10 years. And I think there may have been like a small fee to go along with it. Maybe it's like 50 or $100. And then I paid Abriggs because you can do it yourself, but I kind of like using a passport expediter to kind of do it for me to make sure I get it right so I don't get anything wrong. But they're saying that right now, there's no visa required to enter Brazil. You can just visa on arrival. You just show up. There's no cost for the visa, no nothing. Just go straight through immigration pretty seamlessly. And they're saying that on April 10th, they're going to go to the new, basically reinstating the old visa process that they had before. And I think they've said they were going to do that the last like 3 years in a row. And they've actually pushed it back every single time. And when I was actually leaving Brazil this go around, um, the um, the actual immigration officer, when I was actually going into GIG airport to fly back to Florida, he actually told me, he goes, "Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it." He said that there's a possibility that they might do it, but he didn't think they were going to do it. So, we'll see what happens with their April 10th. What they try to do is they don't want to time it around the Carnival Festival because, you want the maximum amount of people coming into the country. So they're doing it April 10th because Carnival is like, I think March 30th through like April 7th or something along those lines. So that Carnival will be over and then it'll be just regular travel. So, right. Stop share for a sec. But yeah, you can go to travel.state.gov and you can do that for pretty much any country you want to go to. I think it's always good to check to see what the latest and the greatest are. Like I said, you're going to have, travel alerts. Is there any safety concerns, visa requirements, things like that. Just really kind of gives you, that's the most official way. So that way, you're getting the best information. All right. And then, when you go into, let's just say when you land into Rio Airport, what is the airport? You're going to land into GIG is the airport code. Let me share screen one more time. And GIG, Rio International Airport. You're going to land, so one of the things to be prepared for is that, depending on what time you land, I think there's a lot of flights that fly at night and arrive at like between 7 and 9 in the morning from all different countries, probably coming from Argentina, coming from Latin America, Colombia, coming from Dominican Republic, coming from Mexico, coming from Canada. I think everybody flies because it's an 8-hour flight. They fly at night and they arrive in the morning. So when I got to immigration, it was completely packed. I mean, there's probably a few hundred people, lined up. So my immigration took, maybe it took me an hour to get through immigration on this trip, and I heard, my Costeña, the person I met when I went to Brazil, flew her from Colombia. She landed at midnight and she pretty much had no immigration line whatsoever. I think she landed at midnight and there was no immigration line. She walked straight through and it was good to go. Just they basically, hey, here's your passport. Okay, they stamped it. You're on your way. So I know Colombian citizens can get into Rio with no visa. American citizens get through, and I think that's like that for most people. The rumor we used to hear back in the day was that Brazil does not require a visa from any country except for the U.S. because we've made them use a visa to come to America. So they kind of do the same thing back to us. That was a rumor, but who knows? All right. So this is the GIG airport. Just to kind of see some images of the airport. You can kind of see this. It's located about, the airport's about 30 minutes taxi drive from Copacabana. Probably cost you about $20 to get down from the airport to Copacabana or Ipanema. All right. All right. Let's talk about the currency. I think we're on currency here. All right. So the currency in Brazil is the Brazilian real, or they call it reais, because I think they don't pronounce the R, so it's called reais. And I remember when I went to Rio back in, let me go stop share for one sec. I remember when I went to Rio back in 2012, I remember the exchange rate was 2 real for $1. And it was still, anytime you're buying, food, going to a restaurant, goods and services, taxis around town, hotels, things like that, they were still pretty inexpensive, but it was actually 2 to 1, 2 real to $1. Today, it is 6.1 real to $1. So the US dollar is extremely strong down in Brazil. I would almost even argue that it's, and obviously I go down to Medellin, Colombia all the time, and it's very inexpensive to go to restaurants and dine and taxis and things like that and services. manicure, pedicures, massages, or go to the hair salon, barbershop, face shave, things like that. It was actually even cheaper in Brazil than it is in Colombia. I can say that with certainty. I'm talking about dining out, getting a face shave, manicure, pedicure, different services like things like that. It was actually cheaper in Brazil because our US dollar is so strong against almost all currencies right now. So I would definitely recommend that. So we'll go ahead and share screen one more time. So for example, you can see right here, like I said, one US dollar is 6 Brazilian real. And from what I remember, the pricing on things are pretty much still the same. It's just that, the Brazilian real is just, it's weak against it all right now, which gives you an extreme amount of buying power down in Brazil. I think I heard a podcaster say one day, he goes, hey, the fastest way to become a millionaire isn't to make $1 million in the United States. It's basically to go somewhere where you've got a strong US currency against the local dollar, and now you're living like a millionaire. You're 6 Brazilian real to one US dollar. You're basically your money multiplies essentially by five or six. So it's just an amazing, just to give you an example, right? I mean, I think I had a face shave, that would cost me, 30, $40. And here in the States, with a, razor face shave would cost me like 30, $40. It was $6 in Rio, Brazil. Manicure, pedicure for a man, roughly 75 to $100 was $10 in Rio, Brazil. Things like that. I think me and my Costeño, we went to an Italian restaurant right in the tourist zone right next to Copacabana Palace. I think we got two main pasta dishes, like one of the best Italian restaurants in the city. Two main pasta dishes, with two like sides of like chicken to go with each one. I think we ordered like maybe four or five, maybe actually about five or six drinks, three drinks each. I think we had like I think I had like one large espresso. I think we had like two desserts and maybe like an appetizer or two, something like that. And the total for all that was $45. And we're talking in the tourist zone right next to Copacabana Palace, and we'll kind of go into that. But that's just the power of the US dollar right now. I mean, it was next to nothing. $40 for something that would probably cost me 300, 400 bucks here back in the States easily for all, as far as appetizers, main course, drinks, espressos, desserts, things like that, and the tip. So I think it was like $47 was everything with the tip. So I mean, just amazing. All right. All right. So, while we're on the subject of currency, let's talk about, you know, um, we're going to stop share for a sec. Let's talk about, you know, how to use, obviously you're going to be using Brazil real, right? So this is my advice when it comes to, money in Brazil, just holistically. We're going to cover everything here. So one, don't bring US dollars with you to Brazil to exchange at the airport or any currency exchange, because you're going to probably lose about 10 or 20% on your money when you do that exchange. You're literally going to get a bad rate of exchange. So don't bring any US dollars with you whatsoever. You can pull out with your credit card, with your debit card, pretty much everywhere in the city, there's going to be ATMs, and you can pull out Brazilian real from your ATM card, and you'll get the best rate of exchange. If you come with 100 US dollars and you exchange that 100 US dollars, at the airport at one of those currency exchanges, I believe you're probably going to end up walking away with like $70 out of your 100 in Brazilian real. You're going to lose about $30 on that. So I would not recommend you do that. Um, do your best to not use the ATMs at the airport. Maybe pull out a small amount of money at the airport, and then just for your taxi ride. And then once you get into the city, there's a bunch of ATMs that'll give you a much better rate in the city. ATMs are tricky in Rio because you're going to get hit with an ATM fee no matter where you go. I think I pulled out like maybe $100 at the airport in Rio, at the Rio airport, and I ended up paying like a $30 ATM fee at the Rio airport when I pulled my money out at the airport. I got into the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, and I think it wasn't the Courtyard; it was another hotel. Actually, so let's just say I went to an ATM in the city of Rio, Brazil, and in Copacabana, and my ATM fee was like $5 as opposed to like $30 at the airport. It was $5 in the city. So do not pull out what you have to pull out for your taxi ride. You may be able to use your credit card, but pull out what you need just for your taxi ride, and then pull money out once you get into the city. Do not use don't pull out a large sum of money at the airport, because you're going to pay like a $25, $30 ATM fee when you can pay $5 when you get into the city. So, um, so when you do go to the ATM, right, you're going to go to the ATM. They're going to ask you a couple of questions. One is going to be like, hey, this is going to be your fee. At the airport, it says you're going to pay a percentage of the money you pull out. When you go into the city, you're going to pay a flat rate. of like $5, no matter you pull out 500 bucks, you're gonna pay $5 for that 500 bucks. And the airport, you're gonna pay 10, 20% of that 500 bucks and the ATM fee, and that's the difference right there. So you're gonna get ask a couple questions. One, you're gonna get, hey, do you agree to pay you're gonna put your ATM in, you're gonna punch your PIN in, and you're gonna say, hey, do you agree to at the airport, 20% on your money, 10 or 20%? In the city, it'll be like $5, and they'll give you the flat exact rate, right? Maybe like 20 or 30 real, which will be like $5 or $6. Um, do you agree to the fee? You're going to say yes, right? Then they're going to ask you, do you want to convert your money? Do you want to do the local conversion? And you always want to say, no, I do not want to do the conversion of my money. Because if you do the conversion, you're going to lose like 10% of you're basically giving their bank the opportunity to do the exchange for you at the ATM. The exchange rate may be 6 to 1, but that ATM is going to give you 5 to 1 because they're doing the conversion for you. And then they're going to charge you a fee for doing the conversion for you. So always say no on the conversion at the ATMs in Rio, Brazil. Always say, I do not want you to convert it. Decline the conversion and then just accept the ATM fee. So you pay the ATM fee so you can pull your money out. So always remember to do that. And then some ATMs will give you like larger bills, like $100 real bills, 100 reais bills, or some will give you like, if you can try to choose the option where you get 100 reais, 50 reais, 20 reais. You always want as many smaller bills as possible because, when you're paying a yellow, taxi, you don't want to give them 100 reais because they may not have change. Um, but if you, if you got like some smaller bills, you can, let's say the taxi ride's like 15 reais, you can part with 20 reais, and that's only like $1 for a tip, right? And that's pretty much it. And taxis are dirt cheap around the city. So always reject the conversion rate at the ATM because it'll cost you another 10 or 15%. Anytime you're paying for food or anything in Brazil, right? Let's just say you go up when we went to the Italian restaurant, he brings you the actual he brings you the actual the credit card machine to basically put your card in and pay, and then he's going to turn it towards you and goes, hey, do you want to pay in real or do you want to pay in US dollars? Always choose real. You want your bank to do the conversion from real to USD, not the restaurant, because if you choose USD, you don't, I mean, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it felt like I know I paid more selecting USD. The restaurant is doing the conversion on their actual ATM machine, on their ATM, on their actual credit card machine, as opposed to letting your bank do the conversion. So never choose USD when they ask you to, and this goes for Colombia, this goes for pretty much anywhere in the world. Always choose the local currency because that will allow your bank to do the trans. So that way, if the meal is 200 reais, USAA, my bank will do the, conversion for me, and I'll get the best rate through my bank as opposed to the restaurant doing the conversion. I'll get 6 to 1 through my bank, or as opposed to getting like 5 to 1 probably at this restaurant here. So always choose the local currency, real, Colombian pesos, wherever you're at, the Thai baht, the Filipino peso. Always choose a local currency and let your bank do the conversion for you. All right. All right. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much that's a good a good summary of currency exchange for Rio, Brazil. I think we really kind of covered that. That's a pretty good wrap up of how, as far as your reais to USD. Always decline at the ATM the conversion for you. Always pay in real so that way your bank does the conversion. If you can remember some of those small tips, you will be good to go. The weather in Brazil. The weather in Brazil, it is warm. It is pretty much so remember, Rio is below the equator, so the seasons are opposite. So right now in Rio, Brazil, it's actually summertime. I think it was 80 to 90 degrees the entire time I was down. I mean, the weather was just lovely down there. Obviously, it's wintertime. It's colder up here in Florida, up in the States, above the equator. And it's actually summertime in Rio. So I think summertime maybe is like November through like March or something along those lines. Is like, or somewhere plus or minus through February, March is like the summertime in Rio. So pretty much, as for the weather, being in the southern hemisphere, Rio's summer runs from December to March. Expect warm and humid conditions, perfect for beach outings, things like that. Make sure you pack light clothing. Think shorts, t-shirts, and plenty of swimwear. Pretty much, I didn't see one pair of pants the entire week or so I was in Brazil. Not one, no one. Literally, Brazil is like a beach city. So literally, you go to the grocery store and people are wearing bathing suits. People are riding down the street on bikes in their, in swim trunks and tank tops and flip flops, things like that. No one's wearing any like really high end fashionable gear in Rio for the most part. It's pretty much like a beach city, you know. Yeah. So I mean, just think, flip flops and tank tops. Don't wear, in my humble opinion, don't wear jewelry. I mean, definitely. There are some concerns with some crime in certain areas in Copacabana. Copacabana, in my humble opinion, you're 100% safe. Always got to be on guard, watch yourself, things like that. But they've got police everywhere in Copacabana. So they're all walking down Copacabana. As far as on the beach road, they're walking down Ipanema, things like that. So you definitely really don't have a whole lot to worry about as long as don't wear flashy jewelry, things like that. Don't make yourself a target. Try to dress like the locals and blend in, things like that, and you'll be just fine. All right. All right. So let's talk about accommodations now. Let's talk about hotels and Airbnbs. And I kind of got a few of my favorites in general. So, matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and share screen here. Let's go ahead and share screen one more time. And if you take a look here, um, at the map here, you're going to see, this is pretty much, a map of, pretty much the largest kind of tourist area, right? This is kind of, so right along here, this is going to be Copacabana Beach right here, right? And then you're going to see you have Copacabana Beach. You're going to have like, this is where like the fort is, like a very popular tourist destination, and like kind of like a lot of restaurants, coffee shops, just like great views from the fort. And this is going to be Ipanema Beach. I pretty much spend all my time in Rio on Copacabana and Ipanema. So what I like to do is and there's kind of like a couple of locations here in Copacabana that I really like to focus on, right? So, as far as where I'd like to get an Airbnb or where I like to like stay at a hotel. On this trip, I actually did stay in another city, Barra de Juca. Then I would commute into Copacabana because I found a good Marriott property. I'm actually platinum elite with Marriott, going for my lifetime membership. So, I kind of use that status to kind of, get benefits while I'm at the hotel, different, better rooms, good rates, things like that, build upon my nights. Excuse me. So, um, what I would say is that, so first of all, I would say probably one of the best locations in Rio, Brazil is probably one of the best hotels is the Copacabana Palace, right? So I want to focus on three areas. One's going to be Copacabana Palace, which is probably about right here in the middle, right? The JW Marriott, which is like right here around this area. And what happens is that, let's say you've got one of these five-star hotels like Copacabana Palace. What happens is a lot of restaurants, shops, all the best places to kind of pubs, different things like that, lounges. They're all going to be kind of centered around like kind of like the best hotels, the best Airbnbs. So if you've got like a huge hotel where there's lots of money, the Airbnbs next to that hotels are probably going to be a lot more higher quality. It's going to be more safety. So I like to have my Airbnb, my hotels, and do all my shopping and go to restaurants right around like the major hotels. So basically, you know, for example, here's the Copacabana Palace right here. I would go to the Copacabana Palace Hotel, which is right here. And I would basically say, okay, I'm going to go to the Copacabana Palace. This would be like where I would Uber into, or I try to get my Airbnb like right in this area right here. Because, for example, there's like a nice sushi restaurant around the corner. Copacabana Palace has restaurants right across the street from Copacabana Palace. That's where I actually had my New Year's table at the Palace, like kind of like beach bar, essentially, right here across the street on Copacabana Beach. So, you got the Churrascaria, the Brazilian steakhouse, the best Brazilian steakhouse in Rio. Churrascaria Palace is right here across the street from Copacabana Palace. So you've got, your nail salons, your hair salons, your massage, um, you know, masseuse, things like that. Your barber shops, some of the best Italian restaurants, the best beach bars, all going to be centered around Copacabana Palace. Then if you come down here, you do the same thing. The JW Marriott, it's like right here, same thing. Your best, breakfast places, your best restaurants, your best, wine bars, different things like that. Across the street, the beach bars right here are all going to be the best. So, and then I would probably get an Airbnb in this area. I would get, an Airbnb or a hotel right in this area because that's where everything's going to be located. That's just a great way to kind of map out your trip is to, you Uber into town. Where do you start? Get Ubered into Copacabana Palace, and then you can walk around here. There's going to be lots of great people out, lots of people doing activities. Get Ubered into the JW Marriott. There's going to be lots of people out, lots of beach bars right here. It's going to be like, what they do is like the beach bars will kind of center themselves across from Copacabana Palace, and then you'll see lots of people like clustered on the beach in front of Copacabana Palace. And that's where like a lot of the activities in the beach bars, get a caipirinha and kind of sit on the beach and just kind of relax, things like that. You'll notice that like during Carnival and New Year's, Copacabana Palace, right? It's like it'll be like, or the JW Marriott, it'll be like 500-600 bucks a night when it's New Year's or Carnival. But then when you go during the off season, like let's say July, August, it'll be like, JW Marriott be 120 bucks a night, something like that. So they obviously everybody raises the Airbnbs, to be expected, right? You raise the Airbnb prices and you raise the actual hotel prices, during the festivals, things like that. All right. And I think Windsor is like a local Brazilian like hotel chain. I think I've seen like 7 or 8 Windsor, California is right next to, I believe, the JW Marriott. And there's like Windsors all down Copacabana and Ipanema, like all over Rio. You kind of see Windsor hotels, different brands of Windsor. So I think that's probably one of their local hotel chains. All right. So yep. And like I said, as far as the 3 areas that I recommend, there actually is a Hilton property too as well. Over here in, I think it's like right here, there's like a Hilton property in Copacabana. So there's a Hilton property if you're a Hilton person. There may be a couple other partners down there, but essentially Copacabana Palace, JW Marriott, if you can find an Airbnb or hotel right in this area right here, those are going to be some of the best places to kind of hang out. And there, hotels are going to range from anywhere from about 100 bucks to 300 bucks a night, just depending on what your budget is. All right. Right. So let's see, like I said, and it kind of goes into, right. I kind of talked about, like I said, this is the JW Marriott, kind of got that. You can go to Airbnb. Airbnb, you can kind of like use the map to kind of scroll in and look at like different rates in Copacabana for different like Airbnbs, different things like that. Kind of scroll through. I mean, if you're one block up from the beach, I mean, you basically a lot of these properties on the beach, as far as Airbnbs, have like, ocean views, things like that. Or you can be one block up, you walk outside your apartment building, you go walk one street up and you're right there on the beach. So, and you can use Airbnb to kind of like map out, this is Ipanema, this is Copacabana, this is Botafogo, different things like that. You can pretty much map out, where you'd like to stay. All right. All right. So this is, like I said, this was Copacabana Palace. All right. This is just like showing the map there. Airbnb, you can kind of like to look at some of the different properties in Airbnb, kind of scroll through that, check availability, things like that. Right. Right. And I wouldn't be. It would be, in my humble opinion, when you go to Brazil, the the number one restaurant in all of Rio, Brazil, in my humble opinion, is Churrascaria Palace. This place is probably the best Brazilian steakhouse. It is the best Brazilian steakhouse, in my opinion, in Rio, Brazil, and it's actually located right next to Copacabana Palace. So, like for example, if we go on the map here, I think let's see, go to scroll in, see the JW Marriott, Copacabana Palace. Churrascaria Palace is actually right here. Matter of fact, there it goes, it pops up right there. So Copacabana Palace right there, the hotel, and Churrasco, and the best Brazilian steakhouse in Brazil, in Rio, is Churrascaria Palace, and it's right there. They've got like a matter of fact, I think they got a Fogo de Chao in Rio. They've got like different Brazilian steakhouses. I think they even have an Outback in Brazil. Actually, I think when you're driving by Leme, you can see like an Outback in Brazil, which of course you never go to Outback if you're in Rio, Brazil. Who knows? The food might be good there because it's a Brazilian steakhouse. But Churrascaria Palace is like the best Brazilian. And for people that aren't familiar with like Brazilian steakhouses, essentially, you know, um, a Brazilian steakhouse is pretty much, what they do is, I'm going to images here. Pretty much what they do is, you have they pretty much people walk around, um, and it's pretty much just, it's an all you can eat buffet of pretty much different select cuts of like steak. So you'll have like picanha, you'll have ribeye, you'll have filet, you'll have like, skirt steak, um, you know, different things like that, right? So, they basically have like the green card and the red card. Basically, they give you like a little coaster, and if you have your coaster facing up and it's green, then that means that you want people to serve you steak. If it's red, then that means basically don't serve me. But they'll walk around with like the big, um, and for example, this is like a good photo right here, like cuts of like roast beef or steak or different things like that, and they'll basically slice off a few slices for you of different kind of select cuts of meat. So at Churrascaria Palace, it's basically like for 50 bucks for one person, it's all you can eat steak for as long as you want to stay there, and they have like an amazing seafood bar that has like sushi, crab. shrimp, different things like that. So they have a seafood bar and all you can eat steak for like $50 for one person. And that's probably the most expensive restaurant in all Copacabana. Everything else is about 10 to 15 bucks per 10 to 15 bucks to $20 per dish per like person to go out and eat at a restaurant. So, Churrascaria Palace, if you're going to Rio, Brazil, this is the Brazilian steakhouse that you want to go to right here. This has different cuts of like sausages and chickens and like I said, they come by with like filet mignon and different things like that, and they cut off a piece and you use your tongs to put it on your plate. You can order wine and caipirinha and things like that. But this is definitely the best Brazilian steakhouse in my opinion, in Rio, Brazil. You can kind of see how they kind of walk around with those select cuts of meat. They cut them off and you just enjoy. So definitely highly recommend that. Close to, right there around, so you got Churrascaria Palace here. You've also got, I think the Italian restaurant I went to is like, on the what R Fernando Mendez Street right here. This is where like the Italian restaurant I went to. Around the corner right here on the R Divier, there's like a nice sushi restaurant that I went to right here. See if this restaurant pops up here on Google Maps. Let's see what comes up. Churrascaria Palace. All right. I think that, matter of fact, the barber shop I went to is right behind Copacabana Palace, right here. This is where the barber shop was I went to. Like I said, the sushi restaurant I went to is right over here. So I mean, it's just an amazing. I mean, just so much stuff around. All right. Got Middle Eastern. I mean, you can pretty much use Google Maps to pretty much find everything. Right. Right. So that's pretty much, a good, this, and you could pretty much type in, top Italian restaurants, top Brazilian steakhouses, um, pretty much, any type of food you're looking for, because, pretty much you're going to eat something different every day, right? One day you're going to eat maybe at a Brazilian steakhouse. Maybe the next day you're in the mood for sushi. Maybe the next day you're in the mood for Italian. You're going to get that cultural experience. I mean, every day you're going to do something different. And what I kind of recommend is, as my kind of rule of thumb is, the reason why I believe you need one a week to 14 days, you really don't want to try to do everything in one day, right? You don't want to, in my humble opinion, what I like to do is I like to schedule one sightseeing activity per day and one major restaurant per day. So, for example, day one, I may go to Christ the Redeemer and do that tour. And then that night, I may go to Churrascaria Palace, to the steakhouse. And then the next day, maybe I'll go to Sugarloaf Mountain and do like the cable car ride or across the city. And then that night, I'll go to maybe a sushi restaurant, things like that. If you try to do more than one activity per day, sometimes you'll kind of run out of time, right? I mean, there's in Brazil, there's kind of a lot of like long lines sometimes when you go to places. So you definitely don't want to, I wouldn't want to schedule Christ the Redeemer and Sugarloaf in the same day because you're going to be just burned out. And not to mention, you want to get time to kind of enjoy and take photos and just kind of relax. And you don't want your vacation to feel rushed, things like that. So, and not to mention, I would also recommend going probably earlier in the day because typically, from what I saw, there were like afternoon showers. So if you go in the morning, typically you have shorter lines to go do activities, and you'll get like better weather too, so you can take photos. There was some rainstorms kind of when I was there recently, but it was an amazing time. All right. So let's see here. So that was restaurants. And I think, I kind of talked about it, right? Just the services like, barbershops, nail salons, hair salons, facials, different things like that. Um, you know, if you obviously, you're gonna have to buy the ticket down there, which is gonna be 500 to $1,000 or so. You're gonna probably spend, maybe $100 to $120 a night for a hotel or Airbnb, things like that. But so, you're gonna have that initial upfront cost, but when you get there, it's going to kind of balance itself out because now, look, I remember I was paying $6 for a full face shave. I think I paid $10 for a manicure pedicure. You go down there and go get a manicure pedicure. If you have a lady that wants to get her hair done, I think like maybe 20, $30 for her to get her hair done, things like that. So, all those services down there are going to be dirt cheap. So you're really going to make your money back. Or you're going to have a good time, enjoying the lower cost of services down there. So you're really it'll balance itself out in regards to, if you were to go get a manicure pedicure here in the States, right? For, two people, you're talking about $200, right? At least 200, maybe a little bit more for a woman's manicure pedicure because they're getting their nails painted, things like that. You're talking about, face shave is like $40. You're talking about going out to a steak restaurant. Let's say like Ruth Chris is going to be like, $300, 250, $300 at least for two people. So you're talking about you can run up $1,000 just doing some of those things, where in Brazil it may cost you, what, maybe 120, $150 for two people to do. You can go get a, face shave, manicure, pedicure, eat at a steak restaurant, do an activity. You may spend 100 to $200 in one whole day doing all that stuff. So it's definitely something, you're going to spend like, I'd probably say it's about 20 to 25% of what you would spend in the States is what you're going to spend in Brazil. Like just say you're going to spend a quarter of it, and that's where you're going to get your money back, so to speak. That's the value add that's going to happen, right? So that is that. All right, and let's talk about sightseeing. There's just so many great locations to go sightseeing in Brazil. Don't want to go through every single one because there's probably you can just type in hey, top 5 things or top 10 things to do in Rio, Brazil. So I don't want to, I wouldn't want to go through all those, but I will go and on the two major sightseeing locations, I will kind of like talk about those two, and that's going to be Christ the Redeemer and the Sugarloaf Mountain cable car tour. So, for example, I even think I have a little video here of the Christ the Redeemer. So I'm just gonna play a couple of videos and then kind of walk through this. So for example, let's see here. So this is when I went to Christ the Redeemer. This is actually so literally in order to get to Christ the Redeemer, you go to the Christ the Redeemer location and then you take like a train up to the Christ the Redeemer. Actually, pause this, make sure my screen is sharing. Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So here we go. So you're actually going to you're taking the train up to Christ. You can actually see a great view of like Copacabana and Ipanema, like the entire city. This is taking the train all the way up to go see the Christ the Redeemer statue. Just amazing. Right? Here's another video going up to see the Christ the Redeemer. It was a little bit cloudy that day. Just kind of the weather had to be typically, if you get a little bit better weather, get some sun, you definitely get better videos, better photos, things like that. And that's the Christ the Redeemer. All right. So just kind of, it's almost like an outlook post where you can kind of just look over and see the entire city. This is breathtaking to be up there. I think it's one of the what is it, the 12 or 10 wonders of the world is the Christ the Redeemer. So you definitely worth checking that out. And here's one more video just overlooking the city. I think that is, I'm not sure if that's Botafogo or whatever part of town that is, just overlooking the Christ. You just see the entire Rio, Brazil. I mean, just breath. It was just gorgeous. So definitely warm, a little bit cloudy, things like that. And this is just, here's a photo I think I took of, oops, there's a photo of the Christ the Redeemer right there, just kind of like on my way up. Just everybody goes there from all over the world. And you see there's some escalators, some stairs, a couple other little sightseeing things. Anytime you go to do these sightseeing, they take photos of you and you can get like a physical copy of a photo of you kind of walking through on your way back, things like that. Maybe it'd be like $5 for the photo, something along those lines. Okay. All right. So this is Christ the Redeemer. This was the video. And then if I go to the Christ the Redeemer, you pretty much, they said you can just go, from your hotel, you can pull your Uber up. Ubers anywhere in the city are literally like $3, $4. I think I was even commuting in from like 30 minutes away and it was like maybe 10 to 15 bucks for an Uber. But this is pretty much, you can go to Christ the Redeemer. You can just type that into your Uber and it'll pick you up at your hotel or your Airbnb and it will take you right to the entrance location. But like I said, you can see the images here, from Google, Christ the Redeemer, here in Rio, Brazil. Just a great location as far as one of your tourist activities you'd want to do when you're there in Brazil. The second location is Sugarloaf Mountain, pretty much the cable car ride in Rio, Brazil. Basically there's basically a couple of mountains that are interconnected by cable cars, and at the top of each mountain there's going to be like restaurants and bars and different things like that. It's called Sugarloaf Mountain Tour, and I think it's like maybe like a $10 or $15 entrance fee. And you basically take the cable car up to like the top of one mountain, and at the top they have like a DJ up there playing music, ice cream, a little bar. You can order a caipirinha, a bunch of souvenir shops like at the top of the mountain. Then you take another cable car up to another top of another mountain, and they'll have the same thing in another top of the mountain. Then you just pretty much come all the way back. So, matter of fact, I think I've got a couple of videos on that. As a matter of fact, let me go. Here it goes. Here goes. I think this is one of the outlook posts right here. I think this is one of the think this may have been one of the outlook posts. This may or may not. This is not. I think this may have been at the top of one of the mountains in Sugarloaf, I believe. Yep, this may have been. Yep, this is one of the top of one of the mountains in Sugarloaf. Actually, no, this is an outlook post. This is actually a different location we went to. So let me pull up Sugarloaf here. So this next one, yeah, this is the Sugarloaf mountain cable car right here. So this is kind of like the little cable car. It's like a little station, like you wait in line, go early because I think they open at 8 o'clock. And if you get there at like noon, there was like 500 people in line. In the morning, maybe there's like 50 to 75 people in line. So then here it goes. You just kind of taking the little cable car up the mountain, and the views are just absolutely breathtaking once you kind of get up there. All right, just kind of taking the cable car up. All right. And those are the two kind of locations that I would probably do. I'd probably do Statue of Christ, and I would probably do Sugarloaf Mountain as two locations. There's so many other places to see, but those are two that are really, really popular that I would really, really highly recommend. So images, you can kind of take the cable car at the top of the mountain. Like I said, there's like restaurants and things at the top of Sugarloaf Mountain. There's restaurants, bars, ice cream shops, stuff like that. Acai is one of like the more, it's almost like a frozen yogurt that's almost like I don't want to say like almost grape flavored or something along those lines, but it's like a healthy like dish that comes with like fruit. You can get like strawberries, bananas, berries inside your acai bowl. Acai is like one of the more popular kind of like dishes. You can get like an acai bowl at the top of like Sugarloaf Mountain, and this is like what Sugarloaf Mountain at the top looks like. So you get to the top of one of the mountains, and you can have like restaurants, bars, outlook posts, people taking photos, and there's like two of these locations right here. you know. And then so this at night you just see how gorgeous it looks, things like that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to type in acai bowl. Yeah, like it's like a little frozen dessert, acai bowl. Those things are amazing. Brazil is obviously known for acai bowls. All right. I want to talk a little bit about Brazil as a beach culture. Stop share. In my humble opinion, Brazil has the best beach culture in the world, bar none. It's not even close. I mean, literally, you're just, walking down Copacabana Beach. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you another video here. In fact, I'm going to share screen one more time here and show you a video. Um, this is just like kind of like the beach bar scene in Rio. You're just kind of people just kind of hang out at like little Brahma, you can go order like a little beer there or a caipirinha, and people just kind of hang out and just walk up and down Copacabana and Ipanema. And this is just all day long. I mean, it's just gorgeous. People from miles on, everybody's kind of camped out on the beach in their cabanas, and you can order drinks from the cabanas and order food, different things like that. It's just an amazing, amazing beach culture. You know? So you've got you know, going back to Google Maps here, you're gonna have scroll up, zoom out here. So like I said, you're gonna have Copacabana Beach. There's gonna be little beach bars all throughout Copacabana, and then people just kind of like hanging out on the beach, tanning. You can order food, drinks, things like that here in Copacabana. The further, so Copacabana, right? It's kind of weird how it works. The further you go towards the fort in Ipanema, the better quality, the more safe it is. So you're going to have some of your older construction, probably a little bit more, I wouldn't say the word dangerous, but a little bit less secure going towards this way. The more you get down going towards Copacabana this way, the more expensive the real estate gets, the more safer it is, the better the restaurants get. Ipanema is kind of like that's where all the wealthy people in Rio, Brazil kind of live. They live in Ipanema. Ipanema is like the most modern, the safest, has the best apartments, the best construction, things like that. The closer you get towards the fort here, coming down Copacabana, the nicer it gets. And then Ipanema is just like an amazing area. And then also, I would probably say Barra Tijuca is kind of like where I had my hotel, which is a little bit ways. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Barra Tijuca is where I had my hotel at, and that pretty much had like some of the best, like kind of like um probably some of the best beaches. So Rio de Janeiro, as far as Copacabana and Ipanema, it's like, lots of people downtown on the beach, people everywhere, kind of more of a city vibe. Barra de Juca is more of like a suburb, kind of like the big mall hotel that's kind of like in a little bit of a suburb, kind of quiet area, a little bit better construction, a little bit nicer, but it's maybe about 20, 30 minutes out. It's almost like a little bit of a suburb, but the beaches out there are just phenomenal. And matter of fact, I was at Classico's. In my humble opinion, the best beach bar in all of Rio is a place called Classico's Beach Bar. I mean, the who's who there go. I think I went there and I got like a private cabana. I think it was like a private cabana for two. They had a DJ playing on Sunday. It's like the big beach day. That's when everybody goes to the beach on Sundays. So I went to Classico's Beach Club. It was just amazing. I think it was like for my own private cabana, for me and my Costeña, it was like maybe, and then I think I ordered like my private cabana, ordered like maybe four caipirinhas. I think I ordered like fish and chips, ordered like another like fried shrimp dish, something like that. It was like maybe $120, and that was like, something like that would be like it's almost like a $500 to $1,000 kind of like cabana kind of thing. I mean, it's really kind of like an exclusive. It's like where all the best looking and the best well-to-do Brazilians kind of go. It's like the most popular place. Matter of fact, I'll play a little video from Classicos. So I can't play the sound because this is going to go on YouTube. Sometimes YouTube is real funny about copyright striking if you play like music, things like that. So but this is like Classicos Beach Club, got a cool little DJ playing there. People are just kind of hanging out, dancing, having a couple of drinks. I'm actually sitting back in my little cabana area, just taking a couple of photos. Just kind of you can see the beach out in the background, things like that. Everybody just a bunch of like just gorgeous, good looking people. Everybody's all fit. Brazil is like the land of beautiful people. I mean, I think there's just so much ethnic diversity out there. And it's just, just gorgeous people hanging on the beach. Everybody, it's like a really like fit culture in Brazil. Like you see people like exercising on the beach and there's like workout stations and things like that. And it's just like literally like a land of people. Like, even, my girl that I was with, we were just like walking around looking on the beach, like, wow, everybody's like super attractive on the beach. We were both like, looking around like, man, everybody looks good. I gotta get in the gym, so it was definitely a good time. All right. So that was Classicos. And said definitely Classicos. That was my favorite spot. I would definitely go back. I'd go back to Classicos tomorrow. So Classicos Beach Club, obviously they've got an Instagram you can go check out, things like that. If I was just looking at a couple of photos of Classicos, in fact, I'm just gonna go to images here of Classicos. Just like a cool little beach bar, really exclusive. The who's who are there, gorgeous people everywhere. Everybody's looking good. People playing volleyball on the beach, people dancing, hanging out, great food, things like that. I mean, you really just can't beat Classico. My favorite place. Classico's not in Copacabana or in Ipanema, but it was in Barra de Juca, but it's well worth it. Trust me, that's where the who's who are going to be. All right. And let's see here. So I'm going to stop share for a sec. All right. So that's Classicos. Go back to my notes over here. All right. And that's kind of like, the beach culture in Brazil. It's like, literally, you go to the grocery store and people are wearing like bathing suits. Like everywhere in the city, everybody's wearing like shorts, tank top, flip-flops, no like designer stuff, nothing like that. Everybody's just, kind of like in beach gear, like, hey, I'm getting ready to go to the grocery store. You put your bathing suit on and your flip-flops, you kind of go to the I walk around in board shorts the entire time. Just a great time. I mean, just the best beach city in the world, in my opinion. Best beach culture. Everybody's super friendly. It's just a great place to be. It's just, really amazing. So let's talk about New Year's party plans, right? So what I did for New Year's, right, is I basically took an Uber from my hotel, from the Courtyard Marriott and Bar Juca, and I took it down to Copacabana Palace. And like I said, what I do is I go to Copacabana Palace or the JW Marriott, walk directly across the street, and you're gonna have the best beach bar locations right there where everybody's hanging out on the beach. You can order food, drinks, something like that. So I walked across the street to the Palace, right across from Copacabana Palace, right? From the Palace Beach Bar. And I went to the Palace Beach Bar and said, hey, you guys doing a New Year's party? Paid in advance. And then went ahead and I reserved two slots, one for me and one for Michael Steve. All right. And and like I said, so let me see if I can pull the video here. Go ahead and share screen. And right. And let me see. So obviously this is Copacabana Palace again. Marriott, Copacabana Palace. And so basically I Ubered to Copacabana Palace, walked directly across the street, and there's the Palace Beach Bar right there. So for example, for New Year's, so this is what one good piece of advice I think I definitely need to give for New Year's, right? So when I came to New Year's back in 2013, I think, this is Copacabana. This is like the main, was it Avenue Atlantica, I believe was the name of, yeah, Avenue Atlantica. And they shut down Avenue Atlantica was shut down because obviously they got people walking all up and down Copacabana. And then I think they shut down like maybe this street right here, that like the first street behind Avenue Atlantica and the second street behind Avenue Atlantica. So I assumed this year they were going to do the same thing. They did not. They shut down all of Copacabana. This entire thing was shut down. So literally, I think we went to Classicos during the day, and then we got dropped back off around like maybe 10 o'clock, like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Tell me why I had to get dropped off. The fort was the closest place that we could get dropped off in Copacabana. All of Copacabana got shut down like 7, 8 o'clock. I didn't even know that was going to happen. They'd never done that before, but there were just so many people out there for New Year's. All of Copacabana was just packed full of people. So literally, me and my girl got dropped off right here at Copacabana, right here at the fort, and had to walk all the way up to Copacabana Palace to get to the New Year celebration right here. We probably had to walk for about 45 minutes to get there. Like, wow. Almost when I came back from class, it was like 7, should have came right back down. But, obviously had time, made it on, for the most part, made it on time. But can you imagine, someone in a New Year's Eve gown, having to walk all this way? I mean, next time I'll just probably just get an Airbnb or a hotel in Copacabana so I can just walk outside them there, even though I loved it in Bartamajuca. But having to walk all this way, definitely not a good look. But that's a lesson learned. Do not get there about 7 or 8 o'clock and then just kind of hang out, or get your place down there so you can just kind of walk around. But literally, everything was shut down till 5 in the morning. So couldn't even get out of Copacabana until 5 in the morning. But we were out there for until the party was going on to like 2 or 3 o'clock. Walked to like a little pizza restaurant, grabbed a little pizza, had a couple of beers, and then we ended up just kind of like our taxi came back to pick us up and take us out. So it wasn't too big of a deal, but just one of those things where they shut all of Copacabana down now for New Year's Eve now. So, a matter of fact, I'll play a couple of videos. So this was the concert, the Anita concert for Copacabana. Like, I mean, it was just crazy, just performing on stage. Like, this is where I was, right on Copacabana Beach, right in front of the concert stage. It was an all white event. I had white on, white top, white bottom, with some shoes on. And this was like the concert stage. People were all along Copacabana Beach. Anita was performing on stage. It was like Anita and a couple other acts were performing on stage. And we just kind of hung out for New Year's, and we just met a lot of great people. Everybody was dressed up and just partied all night long. Like I said, it was about $500, and we had our own private table right here at the little beach bar. Private table, unlimited food, unlimited drinks, and a private table right in front of the concert stage right there in Copacabana, right across street from Copacabana Palace. I mean, it was just amazing. Mhm. So you can kind of see all this. This is, except the little concert right there. Just not playing the sound just because YouTube does copyright strike when you play music. Right. So just kind of hanging out, just cameras going all over the place. I got my hand from the camera now. All right. And then let's see, that was that one. This is just another video right here. You know, just hanging out, dancing, having a good time. Got my Costeña Daniela over here dancing, having a good time, playing some good music. Got a big concert stage going. Everybody's kind of up, standing around, talking, having drinks, socializing, things like that. All right. And then here's the last video, like some of the concert, like this is the second act that was on stage, different things like that. Yeah, so just definitely just an amazing time hanging out in Rio, Brazil. Mhm. All right. And like I said, and so that was kind of like I said, Anita performed. It was just an amazing time. I said I would recommend going to Rio Brazil either during New Year's. I mean, I like the crowd personally. If you're a person that doesn't like the crowd, you want to go when it's more organic and quiet and just kind of get a feel for what it's like during a normal weekend. I personally would go. I love the big parties, right? Because you get everybody, get all the people that come down, right? A lot of people come down and hang out, right? So you're talking about, I would recommend going during New Year's. Was an excellent experience. I'd also recommend going during the Samba parade and getting to see all like the floats in the parade and the people dancing and hanging out, things like that. The Samba parade is just amazing. I've got some old footage from the Samba parade, but maybe I'll save that for another video, things like that. But so let's just talk about estimated budget for Rio Brazil, right? So I think we kind of talked about it, right? I think if I were to just pull up my notes here, let's just say I'm just going to do a quick share screen again. If I just pull up a couple of notes here, let's just say, for example, um, let's just say, you're gonna, an airline ticket's gonna cost you about, $750 roughly, per person, right? So if you got one person, and during New Year's, during Carnival, it could go up a little bit. So the earlier you buy, as always, the better. Let's just say it's like $750 per person for airline ticket. And I think I showed you that earlier. We were looking at airfare. I would average, probably for a hotel. So that's about 1,500 bucks for two people or 750 for one person. So about 100 bucks per day for a hotel or Airbnb is going to be about right. Or you can go a little bit more expensive if you want 150, 200 bucks. But let's just say you can spend about 1,500 bucks on airline ticket, another 750 bucks roughly, with taxes and everything on hotel for about a week worth stay. And then I would probably plan about 100 bucks per day for food, sightseeing, different things like that. So 100 to 200 bucks. So you figure, one day you're going to go to Trastoria Palace. That's going to be 50 bucks per person, 100 bucks. Then you maybe do like a sightseeing event, will be about 20 bucks per ticket. You may pay 200 bucks one day. Then the next day you may just go to a regular Italian restaurant, pay 50 bucks for two people, and then just get and maybe spend 100 bucks per day. So it kind of average between 100 to 200 bucks per day. So somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 bucks is what you're going to need for spending money and souvenirs and things like that. And then, so we figure with your airline ticket, with your hotel, and with your pretty much your spending money, I would say for two people, you could probably get to Rio, Brazil for about 3 grand to 4 grand, depending on how you want to do it. And that's, in my opinion, that's pretty good for a week of all inclusive for Rio, Brazil. You probably get a little bit cheaper to 2,500 if you really kind of pinched your budget. I mean, you can get Airbnbs for as low as like 40 or 50 bucks. But if you want a little bit nicer one where you're comfortable, get a good night's sleep, and really have some amenities at the Airbnb, I'd roughly say about 3 to 4 grand is what you're going to spend on a ticket on a vacation going down to Rio, Brazil. And then I'll just kind of leave you with the maybe with the thumbnail I'm going to use for, I guess, Reveillon. How do you say it? Matter of fact, let me go back here. How do you say Reveillon? How do you say um Réveillon? Because you don't say the R like hey eyes. Réveillon means New Year's Eve. So this is pretty much, my little thumbnail I'm going to use for this video. New Year's Eve 2025. So um, definitely amazing, amazing, amazing time in Brazil. I can't lie, I'm excited to be able to go down to Brazil for an extended period of time. What I would also recommend doing, either you could get with me or there's other people like Skylar DeRuin, who lives down, an ex retired Air Force veteran that actually does consultations for people to come down to Brazil. He was a finance, non-commissioned officer in the Air Force, retired after 20 years. And he actually has like a finance course where he does like online investing and crypto and stock market, things like that. And he actually lives in Rio, Brazil, and he actually does consultations for people coming down to Rio, Brazil. A lot of the information that I found was, just go to some of these travel channels on YouTube, and you'll find everything you need to know about coming down to Rio. Highly would recommend either with myself or someone else set up a consultation. You spend maybe 100 bucks, 100, 200 bucks for a consultation. So you can, I pretty much walked you through everything Rio in this video, but to be able to talk to someone, say, hey, what's the best restaurants? Where should I stay as far as hotels? Someone that can advise you on flights and the visas and things like that. Go to a Scholar de Ruin and book a consultation with someone like that to actually get all the latest and greatest on what's going on in Rio before you go. You having a consultation, having an idea of what you want to do before you get there will save you so much time. You don't want to just go in blind and randomly find things. Another good thing, right? Let's say if you're staying in a hotel, you can go to the hotel front desk, and typically they've got like a liaison or a front, a reception counter. They can give you advice on, hey, this is the best restaurant in the city. These are the times that things are open. This is a good time to get to the Christ the Redeemer or the Sugarloaf Mountain tour. We're doing our own tour from the hotel. We're going to take you to different locations every day. This is the best beach bar, things like that. You can get a lot of information from the people at the hotel, different things like that. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. I think we've covered everything. I mean, literally, this is an all-in-one inclusive guide on Rio, Brazil, and I think everyone will, if obviously do your research. But I think this video was a good starting point for anyone that wants to go to Rio, Brazil. I highly recommend it. I'm trying to find the next time I can actually get back down to Rio. I'm excited to go for a second time. I hadn't been in a few years. But it's just getting better every time I go. The US dollar is strong down there. Services and food and things are inexpensive. I mean, it was just a great time. I mean, Copacabana was just lit. People were everywhere hanging out. Matter of fact, I got this Neymar jersey. I think it cost me 15 bucks at like a shop right by Copacabana Palace. So it was just an amazing time in Rio for this trip. I mean, really, I pretty much I have an apartment in Medellin, Colombia. But it really made me say, okay, I've got to put Rio back on the map. I got to get down to Rio once or twice a year to hang out on Copacabana Beach. It was just a fun time. Lots of beautiful people. Everyone's super nice. Great food. Great tourist attractions. I mean, you will not regret going to Rio, Brazil. Trust me. So yeah, if you got anything, leave some comments in the comment section below, and let me know the next video. And like I said, we're all lucky to be here. Don't put off that vacation till tomorrow. You want to go, you want to experience Rio, Brazil, not when you're 90 years old, right? You want to be young and vibrant and be able to actually get around and enjoy it. Do it now. Save that money up. Maybe don't go out a couple of weekends here in the States and save your money up and then take a big trip to Rio, Brazil or something along those lines. I would highly recommend you do it. While you're young, you have the energy, you like to walk and sightsee and see all the great sights and the culture and the food. There's museums down there. By all means, I mean, do it now while you can and while you're healthy, because tomorrow isn't promised. Like I said, my book was called "Lucky to Be Here" because I'm a former Iraqi war veteran, and I was injured in combat and Purple Heart, and I'm lucky to be here. So I kind of look at that as being, hey, this is your one life to live right now. This is your one life to live today. Don't waste it. Travel the world, see everything. Go to Europe. You want to go to Paris and take the bus tour from the Eiffel Tower. You want to go to Netherlands and go to the Van Gogh Museum and the Anne Frank Museum and the Natural Arts History Museum. You want to go to Thailand and go to the Songkran New Year's Festival. You want to go to Cebu City in Philippines. You want to go to Medellin, Colombia, and go to some of the amazing restaurants and nightlife down there. You want to go to Punta Cana and stay at one of the resorts and sit there in the Caribbean and go to the Bahamas and go to the Atlantis Hotel and just do all that stuff. Go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and go hang out in Old San Juan, one of my favorite places. You don't even need a passport to go to San Juan. It's considered U.S. territory. You can just fly in with your driver's license. Go to Old San Juan and hang out at La Casita, right there on the water where the ships come in, and have a couple of cocktails with the big pineapple, things like that. I mean, there's just so much to see. I mean, I love Florida. I love living here. But think about it. For example, if you live in Florida, you're a 3-hour flight from Medellin, Colombia. You're a 2-hour flight from Dominican Republic. You're like a 2-hour flight from Cancun, Mexico. You're an 8-hour flight from Brazil. You're right here on the East Coast. You're literally in the center of everything. California is a 5-hour flight to the west. Europe is what, like 7-8 hours. You get into London, different things like that. Take advantage of your passport and travel and see the world. You will not regret it. You'll be so much more enlightened and enriched, and obviously you want to do things locally in your area, but shit, hop on a plane, get out and go see the world. I definitely recommend that. So yeah, great episode today, and this one will be Rio, Brazil. Eventually, we will do a Medellin, Colombia episode, and we'll talk all things Medellin, Colombia. But for now, we'll be signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.